Welcome to the Ever After podcast, an 8-episode series created to help you bridge the gap between your head and your heart, between the God that you know and the relationship you long to experience. Each week, we'll share scriptures, stories, and key insights drawn from the Ever After encounter, a 2-day experience designed to help women move towards deeper intimacy with God. I'm your host, Grace Wood, here with my dear friend and mentor, Anita Kelly Couch, the creator of the Ever After encounter. We're so glad that you're here. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to episode 6 of the Ever After podcast, where we have finally arrived at the root of our deepest struggles, our unprocessed wounds. What if our healing begins when we allow God to meet us in the places we've tried to avoid? Let's explore that together today, inviting God into the wound. Anita, why is feeling the pain of our wounds so crucial to our spiritual and emotional growth?
Such a good question. And to answer it, Grace, I'm going to quote my most favorite Bible passage. I say that about all of them because it answers this question perfectly. It's Philippians 3:10 and 11, and I'm quoting from the Amplified Classic translation. For my determined purpose is that I may know him, that I may progressively become more deeply and intimately acquainted with him, perceiving and recognizing and understanding the wonders of his person more strongly and clearly, and that I may in that same way come to know the power outflowing from his resurrection, and that I may so share in his sufferings as to be continually transformed into his likeness, even to his death. You posed a poignant question, Grace. What if healing begins when we allow God to meet us in the places we've tried to avoid? Feeling the pain of our wounds is just one pathway to know Christ more intimately, not only in the power of his resurrection, but also in the fellowship of his sufferings.
I think it's Ephesians 1:3 in the Message says this: long before he laid down the earth's foundations, he had settled on us as the focus of his love, to be made whole and holy by his love. Whole and holy by his love.
It is the pathway to wholeness and holiness. Underneath our addictions, underneath the painful emotions we've carried and the lies we've believed, are wounds too painful to feel and too scary to look at. But Jesus invites us to go there with him. He wants us free. He is our wounded healer, and he went before us and suffered in isolation so that we might never be abandoned in our suffering. You know about this personally, don't you, Grace?
I do. Anita, you know this well. As you remember, in the fall of 2024, after a few years of struggling with some chronic health issues, I was diagnosed surprisingly with stage 4 cancer. I can really only describe it as a journey into true living. It brought such a perspective to my life that I really don't think I'll ever be able to unsee. But I do remember on the days that I had nothing left at all in me, the love that God gave me for my husband and my son, it empowered me in such a way that I didn't know it could. It gave me a reason to live. And I remember thinking that was just a snippet, just like a glimpse of what I can only imagine he feels for his children. And it made me think about how Jesus endured the heaviest burden, the most painful suffering. And I wonder if he too thought of those that he loved. I wonder if he even thought of you, Anita, or of me.
I love that, Grace. And it was so difficult to watch you suffer in the way that you did. I love how you paralleled it to Christ's sufferings. Hebrews 12:2, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. Don't you know that he had his eyes on the prize? Mm-hmm. And the prize, the joy set before him, was that we might come to him and remain forever by his side again.
Yeah.
Whew. Kathy Lurzel, one of the co-founders of the Allender Center, uses Christ's death and resurrection as a template to talk about the healing process. She calls it the U diagram. As we begin to excavate our past stories, we inevitably will face grief, right? As we allow a truer, fuller version of our story to be told.
Anita, I have a question for you. As you began to allow this truer version of your story to come into view, and you were allowing things to come up and process them, were there any obstacles that you faced in doing that?
Yes, I absolutely did. When I first began this journey, I was almost paralyzed with guilt because I did not want to dishonor my parents in any way because I loved them so much. And so being truthful about the ways that I was hurt seemed dishonoring to me.
Wow.
But there are two things that helped me here to continue on. One was learning the true meaning of the word confess in the scripture. In the Greek, it's homologeo, homo meaning sameness, lego meaning speaking. Adam Young defines confession this way: to speak sameness with God about what has been true. So yes, we confess our sin, but we also can speak the truth about how other people's actions have hurt us.
This is much easier said than done.
Yes, yes.
So as you're learning to speak the truth honorably, but still be honest about how other people's actions may have hurt you, what helped you learn how to do this?
Well, the second thing I learned on this journey was I heard Dr. J. Stringer talk about the value of holding honesty and honor together, that they are two sides of the same coin, and we don't have to separate them. He says this: the shadow side of honor is that we serve to protect our parents or someone else so that we never have to face the heartache of what their sin brought into our lives. End of quote. You see, we will never get to true freedom if we never get to the point of speaking the truth honestly. So I can maintain so much love and respect for my parents, yet still tell the truth about the pain I experienced growing up. And this doesn't necessarily mean, Grace, that we have to go and share all of this with them
Right.
now. But honesty is about opening our hearts to the deepest pain and hunger we feel and inviting Jesus to come in to that space to fill it. As Kathy Lurzel shares, grief, and this is so hard to hear, but grief is the pathway to healing. Jesus going to the cross was the pathway to life. And our pathway to healing is being willing to face grief with him. We must be willing to descend into the depths with Christ and tend to those places in our heart and grieve for them. And yes, it is hard. It is painful. And sometimes it is agonizing and excruciating. But we are not alone in that.
Ugh, I don't want to hear you say that grief is the pathway to healing. But I do know that we never suffer alone. do we?
That's right.
Isn't it Anne Voskamp who says, the wounds of our hearts make the God of heaven weep? So we know that we don't weep alone. We don't grieve. We don't mourn. We don't suffer alone. He is our wounded healer, and he promises never to fail us or to loosen his grip on us.
That's right.
So inviting God into our wounds means that you are willing to feel that grief or that pain, that suffering in order to heal. Do you have anything else that you want to add to that?
I mean, I want to admit I would rather skip right over the pain of Good Friday and get to the joy of Resurrection Morning,
Me
right?
too.
But we can't do that. It's the U diagram. It's the valley of the shadow of death. It's being willing to go into the depths first. And it makes me think of Paul's declaration in Romans 8:18 when he said, "For I consider the sufferings of this present time are not even worthy to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in us." I love that. The other thing we need to understand about pain is, and Brene Brown made this popular when she said, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we numb the positive ones. You unintentionally lower your capacity to feel joy and gladness when you numb the sadness and grief. Because when you numb some of the emotions, you numb them all. Yet, the reverse is also true. When you step into the pain and feel it, God increases your capacity to feel even greater joy and connection and intimacy with Him and with others. Curtis Morley said it this way, and this is humbling. You can only feel love as deeply as you can feel hurt. Wow. I'll never forget the exhilaration I felt after God began healing my heart. To finally be able to breathe deeply without that deep angst in my soul, and to know and to feel in the very depths of my being, I am loved. I am free.
I loved that you shared that you can't selectively numb some emotions. That is just, wow, that is so groundbreaking to realize that when you numb the pain, you're also numbing the ability to feel future joy.
That's right.
So inviting God into these wounds means that you are willing to reveal your stories of harm or hurt in order to heal. Can you tell me, why is it so important to reveal? Why do we have to share it?
Physician and trauma expert Gabor Mate says it this way: trauma is not what happens to us, but what we hold inside in the absence of an empathetic witness. So being willing to share our stories of harm honestly in the presence of Jesus and a few trusted, supported friends is incredibly healing. These are friends who will let you share honestly how you felt. These are friends who will not minimize or dismiss your pain, no matter how small it may seem. These are friends who will listen to understand. And these are friends who will be with you in your pain. And this is key, with no judgment and no advice unless you ask for it.
Wow. Those are some good friends.
Yeah,
How do you find those?
Friends.
This reminds me, I think it was episode 2 where we talked about how engaging deeply in a good story, it links both the right and the left side of your brain, which is when healing can really start to happen. I'm curious, is this also true when we share our personal stories with someone else, or even when we listen to someone else's story?
Isn't it amazing that God masterfully designed our bodies and our brains to rewire and heal? And He took that into consideration even before the fall in how He designed us. Dr. Kurt Thompson, a Christian psychiatrist, speaks often about the spiritual, emotional, and even the neurobiological benefits of sharing your story in this context. When you share your story, your nervous system shifts from survival to safety and connection, which was missing in that original experience. You don't feel so alone in your pain, and your brain begins to restructure the memory, lessening the intense emotion that's attached to that hurtful experience, as well as giving you a new memory of others being present with you in that pain. You see, we were hurt in the presence of others, and we will be healed in the presence of others.
Let's now listen to our friend Tanya's experience at the Ever After encounter.
Jesus used the encounter to let me know how intimately He loves me, exactly the way He made me. There wasn't one more thing I could do to be more loved by Him. Before the Ever After encounter, there was still a part of me that believed if only I could be better, do better, or love Him more, then I would be accepted. I could still be moved by the enemy's lies, even if what was being said didn't align with who I knew I truly was deep down under all that I was going through. I wasn't resting in my identity in Him fully, but was striving to earn love and acceptance. He was able to break the agreement of being broken and needing to conceal and not feel, to believing that I am chosen. When I was able to see myself as God saw me through the encounter, I was no longer able to see myself any other way but how precious, beloved, treasured, and redeemed I am to Him. He chose me, redeemed me, and pursues me. I am His treasured one, and because I was able to see that identity, I was no longer able to abandon myself. I am now choosing to live in my true identity, chosen, treasured, redeemed, precious, and dearly loved by Him.
So, just to recap, our pain must be felt and shared in the presence of empathy and kindness. Anita, I'm curious, what else can we expect as we invite God into our wounds?
This almost goes without saying because we've emphasized it in almost every episode. When we invite God into our wounds, we will experience Him in a deeply personal way. He knows us completely, and He knows how to relate to us uniquely in ways that will bring us repair. Please understand, though, I'm not teaching go chase an experience with God. But what I am clearly saying is what is explicitly clear in the Scriptures. Knowing God will include an encounter with Him. Just think of all the personal encounters in the Scriptures. Moses, Abraham, Jacob, Isaiah, and Saul, and many others. The one I'd like to talk about now as we close, Grace, is Jesus' encounter with Peter after His resurrection.
I'm ready for a good story.
When Jesus first called Peter in Luke chapter 5, you'll remember that Peter and the boys had been fishing all night, and they hadn't caught anything. Jesus sees them from the shore and He shouts, "Caught any fish? Cast your net on the other side and you'll get a catch." They did, and you'll remember they caught so many fish, their nets began to break. Well, after Jesus' resurrection in John 21, once again, Peter and the boys had gone out fishing all night and had caught nothing. At daybreak, and that's a key detail, Jesus from the shore, just like He had had before, shouts, "Caught any fish? Cast the net on the other side and you'll get a catch." And once again, they caught so many fish they weren't able to haul them all in. John recognized it was Jesus from the boat, and Peter immediately dove in and swam to shore. When Peter reached the shore, it was daybreak, and there was a charcoal fire burning, just like there had been the night Peter denied Jesus. Jesus intentionally recreated the scene of Peter's awful denial. Why? Not to humiliate Peter, but to give Peter an opportunity to reenact that terrible failure, but this time do it differently.
Wow. I really can only imagine what it was like for Peter to be there again with Jesus and look into the eyes of his friend. who he had just defiantly betrayed a few days earlier.
Right. Surely Peter's countenance reflected profound shame, right? Jesus was there to meet him in the middle of that disgraceful moment, not to shame or condemn, but to offer love and redeeming grace. And then, taking Peter further into the scene, he asked Peter, "How many times do you love me?" 3 times, giving Peter an
Wow.
opportunity to affirm his devotion and receive forgiveness and restoration for each time he had denied Jesus. And then Jesus gently revived Peter's hope for the future. Who wants to revisit the scene of such a painful moment?
Ugh.
No one. But Jesus will take us back to our own awful moments of the past through prayer, where he can graciously rewrite and reframe that memory to give us a new memory of Jesus entering the scene with us, comforting us with his presence, and reassuring us of his love, just as he did with Peter.
Wow. And as we've already talked about, so confronting this depth of our pain, it gives us the privilege of, yes, sharing in Christ's suffering, but also experiencing his resurrection and his healing. And I love how you explained how he gave Peter this opportunity to redeem himself, even in the details. That was just beautiful.
Yes. And then we can go out and do as Peter instructed in 1 Peter 2, proclaim the excellencies of him who has called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. Love it.
In our next episode, we'll go a little bit deeper into what it looks like to actually live and walk in this greater freedom. Before we go, here's a reflection question for you to consider.
Jesus loved you so fiercely, he was willing to suffer and die to secure your freedom from sin, death, and the evil one. Is God gently inviting you to a place of wounding now? You may suffer if you go there with him, but will you go? You get to choose.
Thank you for joining us on the Ever After podcast. If today's episode encouraged you, we'd love for you to share it with a friend. And if you'd like to learn more about Anita Kelly Couch or the Ever After Encounter, you may visit our website, discovereverafter.org. You can find more information in the show notes. May you continue to discover that the God who knows your story completely is also the one who loves you the most deeply.